So let's look at, let's talk more about melody. One and
Hello, sir. I'm just going to make a quick announcement. Tomorrow we have a debate club at 11:30. It's going to be held outside if you're interested, and it's on the same topic as before, namely, should we move the Olympics to Beijing? Okay, so if you're interested, it's going to be held outside the yard, and we'll see you there. Ciao.
hey, good question. Okay. Okay, couple of just review points. So first of all, the standard sort of phrase structure in classical music, and pretty much inherited into pop music and to this very day, to actually several minutes ago, is a 4-bar phrase. 4 bars, 4 bars. Okay? And like, for example, pop songs, your lyrics are going to be like 4 lines of lyrics. All right, so 4, 4, 4, 4. 16 bars. 4 bars, 4 bars, 4 bars, 16 bars. And that would be your one verse in a pop song. Right? And then you'd have a contrasting section, which usually we call like a chorus or a refrain, and then a second verse. Right? So basically a song structure, what you hear pretty much every day. I digress, but it's related to this. It'll be basically this: 4 lines of music and lyrics, and then you get another 4 lines. And this would be what we call the chorus. Okay, and then you get that. That will be the same as this. That's why it's A. Right? This will be the same music, different lyrics. Right? Okay. Then you probably get. Right, there are variations on this, right? Not every single pop song follows this. This is like the dumbed down version. And then you get another chorus, right? Okay, this would be exactly the same. Okay, this is where usually, you know, if you have a song title, "Hey Baby, Baby, Baby," for example, that's where that shows up. Okay. And that.
Let's go.
Okay. You know what I'm saying. And that's sort of the place, what we call the hook, that every songwriter prays to Saint Cecilia every day. That's where the big hit's going to be. Because that's where you want the really catchy tune, right? That everybody's going to sing along, etc. So it's going to be in that chorus part, and that's basically what makes the song work or not, right? So you can see this keeps coming back, and that keeps coming back. Here it's same music, different lyrics, same lyrics. Okay. Now, because songs are basically pretty simplistic, okay, I'm just going to kind of take this one step further, just because we're talking about it. If you just keep going A, B, this, that, it kind of gets tiresome. right? You can only repeat things so many times before it starts to work against you, you know. So that's the kind of the trick. Just where do you stop? So what they often invent is another something here, maybe a C, something different, maybe a solo, like an instrumental 16 bars, guitar solo, drum solo, this and that, back and forth, just to break this up, okay, just to introduce contrast, okay, that's your beauty contrast, and then, you know, bring it home. So that this kind of wipes all of that kind of a little bit out of your memory, and then bingo, you come back to the verse or or sometimes it can be the chorus again. But they usually put a little, what they call a bridge or a break or whatever. Doesn't matter what it's called. Okay. So, but it's based. The whole thing is based on two simple principles, which is what we're talking about: repetition and contrast. So repetition gives the brain the connections between this and that, so that it realizes that as soon as the brain hears this, it goes, aha, I heard it before. So right away it connects that with this. So you have a structure. Yeah, it's not like a physical structure, but it's a structure that's moving through time. Okay, I know that sounds profound, but you know, think about it. That's where music is. It moves through the passage of time. Yeah, this provides the contrast. It's very simplistic, but you know, it's contrast. They'll probably touch on a different key. So you have a little bit of that. You know, if you've noticed what they figured out back in the 50s, pop songs. If they figured, if I repeat this one more time, it's going to be really boring. So what they do is they just take the same thing and bump it up a semitone. If you ever noticed that? It's kind of a little trick. And it just gives you a whole different sound world. Up a semitone, changes the color. Yeah? So instead of doing something fancy like modulating, moving into a key, they just kind of bump it up, just repeat the same thing. So it's repetition, but it's also contrast. So all these things figure into, right? We're just concerned with this little bit, basically. All right, just in half of that. So you've got 4 bars and 4 bars. Now, what we talked about last time is the two different ways of writing those 4 bars. Right? The parallel was, this was exactly the same as that. Pure repeat. You just change the ending. Okay? Because this 4 bars would end on a half cadence, end with 5. And then this guy would end with 1. So you had to change the ending just to make the 5 and the 1 work. Right? You have to change, because the notes in here would not fit into the tonic chord. So that's basically what we're talking about. So the parallel would be identical. Now that's the easiest way to do it. So you have to read the question carefully. Okay? Well, just in general, read the question 2 or 3 times. Just make sure you know what's going on. They might ask you, for example, in 92, they ask you for keyboard style. And you get used to doing keyboard style, and then all of a sudden they switch it to chorale style, and you don't notice. You just kind of go like automatically on keyboard style. So you have to be careful, because they'll flip. So, just a warning there. Okay. Okay. Well, maybe I'll save that for a little bit later. So parallel, it's an exact repeat. contrasting, you want to do something different. However, remember we talked about this. The trick is that when the ear finishes with this 4 bars, it feels satisfied that they belong to those 4. In other words, there needs to be some connecting material. Okay? And as I showed you with the Beethoven, the strongest, most elemental element, I guess, in music is what? Starts with an R, ends with an M. Yeah, rhythm. M. Okay. Sorry, okay, take a mark off. All right.
No, I think it's just a M.
Rhythm and M. Rhythm and M.
Let's see.
Okay.
No, it's just M.
Now, go back. Go way back. Way back. What's the first thing you ever heard in your existence?
You are amazing.
Nursery.
The hospital.
You are my sunshine.
So there's like a door at the front, and there's a little section that goes into the world. I remember crawling between the door and into the elevators. And that was my first time.
Did he always like this?
Wait, do you mean like the first thing we remember that we heard, or the first thing we actually heard?
First thing I ever heard.
That's probably like the hospital.
My mother screaming.
First thing I listened to was
Two balloons.
Maybe it's because your ears weren't grown yet, but you would have heard it. So you would have heard your mother's heartbeat. Yeah. Okay. Now, there's obviously something to that. Like even in music, we find the sort of the andante, the walking pace is like at 60, which is like 60 beats per minute, which is 1 beat per second, which is generally the heart rate of most healthy, normal people, right? Plus or minus. But basically that. So you would have heard that, or felt it, maybe. You know, when the heart pumps. If you're in one of these, what do they call them? I forget what the name is. One of these rooms that is totally silence.
Oh, those
Soundproof, yeah, they have a fancy name for it.
the ones that you can hear your heartbeat.
Yeah, the first thing you're going to hear is your heartbeat, and then you're going to hear a whizzing sound, and that's the blood rushing through your veins as each time it gets pumped, right? Which you normally don't hear, okay? Because we live, you know, you can hear that noise. We hear, we're surrounded by noise. We never hear or exist in total silence. But even back then, when you're a little nothing, right? But yeah, so if you stop and think about it, so rhythm, just that pulse, is such an elemental. Well, it's life, right? Let's get fancy. Call it a life. It's a life rhythm. Without that rhythm, there's nothing going on, right? In a sense. So rhythm is so elemental, and that's probably, as they sort of think in terms of human paleontology and all that stuff, probably we started, you know, banging two stones together, 2 sticks together. before we started singing Palestrina and stuff like that, right? It was like really basic. Yeah. So rhythm is at the bottom, the heart of everything. And again, it's a pattern, right? Keep coming back to it. It's a pattern. That's how the brain deals with incoming information. Looks for patterns, and there you go. You can ponder that when you have nothing better to do. Okay, so this is the easy way. What you're being asked to do is contrasting. So you try to find some kind of connection, yet it's got to be close enough so that the brain picks up the connection. In other words, there's musical logic there. Right? So most people sort of think, composers just kind of sit on a mountaintop and they get a lightning stroke and stuff like that. It's like 90%, 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration. You're working, you have the technical means at your disposal to figure out a solution to these problems. It's basically problem solving, right? So that's why you learn the theory and the harmony and the counterpoint and all that stuff. That gets you to getting that melody written. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. So we looked at, look at the first one. We did the first one, but we'll look at it again. So page 92. Whoa, I think I should do that. Okay, so now you're on the dominant. And there's your 5, and there's your 1. Okay. Sounds finished. Okay? So, that's basically the formula. 4 bars, end with 5. It could be 1-5, could be 4-5. Really doesn't matter. But 5 is the important one. And then another 4 bars, end with 1. Could be, usually, the best thing is 5-1. It sounds much more finished. 4-1 is the sort of the amen, your amen cadence. If you want it to sound like a hymn, that's okay. 5-1 is more solid, boom. Right. Okay. So, the first thing that I noticed about this, just visually, right? Look at the top line. Measure 2, 3. See how it goes up? Now, go to the second line. Measure 5, 6. Comes down. All right? So it's got a definite melodic shape to it. But the rhythm's the same. All right? So the brain's going to pick up the rhythmic connection. The brain's going to pick up the smooth, the scale-like thing going up or down. It's going to find the second line more satisfying because it peaks a little bit higher, goes up to a G sharp. Okay. Again, observation, and you can decide whether that works. First bar is a triad, right? A B major triad. Underneath, the corresponding measure 5. Same idea, triad. Chord 6. All right. But the thing is, it's a triad. So you'd have to register that if I'm going to do something like a triad in the first bar, it's got to be a triad. I can't just sort of randomly pick notes. And stick with the simple triads, 1, 4s, and 5s. Okay. All right. Did we do this one? I think we did this one, didn't we?
We did all of these.
Okay. So 5-1. We're gonna end with that. All right. Now let's look at the next one. Basically, what I want you to try to get used to doing is sort of absorb the melody as best as you can, what they give you. Because they're going to give you the first 4 bars. You're going to have to figure out the next 4. So it's, you're going to have to come up with something. So where do you start? Well, you start by studying what's there, carefully, observing. Remember I said observations, some observations may be useless, some may be what you want, but observations are observations. So this one here, second one, okay, it starts with the tonic triad. Do, sol, do. Okay. Can I use that for the next phrase? Sure. He doesn't, but it would have been an option. Okay. So in other words, you try to figure out what's there, and you ask yourself, what can I use? Like basically, really, what can I recycle that's there already? That's going to give me a connecting link between measure 1 and 4 and 5 to 8. Okay? So I think you're kind of getting it. All right. C minor. My only issue with that one might be that the first phrase, I think it's a mistake in the second bar going into the third bar rhythm. Why do you think I'm saying that? It puts a half note and another half. It seems like kind of all of a sudden it comes to a stop. He starts going with half note and then quarter notes and then 2 eighth notes, and then all of a sudden boom. So it's almost like he should have kept rolling through there, at least two quarter notes. Okay, so that's an opinion. You can agree, disagree. All right. So, as I say, you can agree or disagree. I would have probably just, at least instead of that half note C, I would have done, I'll show you what I would have done, just visually. All right, so you got 3 flat. Instead of, instead of the C, D, I would have done, keep it going. All right, another quarter note. I would have done this. Okay, just do this for illustration purposes. All right. A natural. Anybody suggest to be why?
Understanding melodic minors.
Good answer. Yeah. Okay. This is what's going to haunt some people. Minor keys. They can be tricky. When do I use a raised leading note? When do I use a raised sixth? Well, basically, you think of where is the melodic movement going? Okay. Well, the melodic movement is going that way. Alright, that's where he's going. La, ti, do. So that has to be raised. Okay? So I would have done, for example, that might have been an interesting option. Keep the rhythm going. You don't. Alright? I could have done. You could do that. Okay, now why isn't that B raised? This B is raised, this B is not raised. Same,
Descending melodic.
yeah, same answer. Okay, because the melodic movement is going down. Alright, if I go up, I raise it. So. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to get A flat going to B natural. Right? You're going to get the augmented second, which is why we use the melodic minor scale, to avoid that. This was considered difficult to sing, not for you, but for normal people. Alright?
A snake.
You're not landing in Baghdad.
Sounds like
So,
ropes.
yeah,
Can I go to the water?
sure. You know, it's not really exciting, but okay. Okay. So, that's just a caution if they give you a minor. So you have to be. You'll hear more about this. So if you don't get this totally 100%, don't worry. We will review this. Okay. So that was my construction here. So I would have I could improve that. All right. That's a personal opinion. The bottom line, the next four, I think are really good. Because they're really well defined. Measure 2, sorry. First of all, measure 1 leads me finger. Something important is coming. Okay, the finger is taking you up to the F. So it peaks to a higher point. So in other words, there's something there, a highlight, and then it comes down gradually. But look at measure 6 and measure 7. They're sequential. So again, he's taken measure 2, the rhythm, bump ba da dum, all right, and he brings you down. So he's using the same thing twice. In other words, he hasn't had to, compose anything more. He's basically recycling. But it's when you're clever, you can do this to your advantage. So what we get is this. So there's that yum pa pa pum, right? That rhythm that you've heard it. You've already heard it in measure 2. Now you hear it 2 more times. So again, the brain will make that connection, and you got a high point. So to me, this is except for what I talked about there, the rhythm thing. This one's a very effective melody. Okay, so we're going to give this guy probably a good mark, a 9 even, 8.5 or a 9. Assuming that he gets the cadences, he does the cadences right. Think of the dominant 7. Okay. By 1. All right. We'll talk about that too at some point. Okay. 93. All right. This one's kind of interesting too. The first phrase goes from E, which is the, the E, which is your do, and goes down to a B. So that's the what we call the ambitus. In other words, the range. Just a perfect fourth. E down to B, and then back up to E, and then lands on the D sharp, the leading note. So basically, right? Just narrow, but it's got a definite. It's going someplace. Maybe too many D sharps, maybe. We can discuss that. In other words, the leading note, here's the thing with the leading note. It's extremely strong, melodically. And it's funny because when we talk about harmony, when you use it in harmony, it really weakens the chord. So it's this weird, it's a funny note. Melodically, it's very, very strong. Right? It almost always wants to push. That's why they call it a leading tone, right? It always wants to lead you up to the tonic. There's 3 of them, actually 4 of them in that first line. Maybe a little one too many, but so you see how that's incoming. I always wondered, those people who bought the condominiums across from the hospital, that helicopter thing was not there when they built those condos. Now you may have find out that you've got a helicopter in front of your dining room window. Okay. I digress. Okay, listen to it again. Basically here. So, fairly narrow, so that's not all that, it's not a 10. It's a little bit, doesn't have a lot of definition. Next phrase certainly does. It starts on the E, goes down to an F, and then way up to the F, an octave, and then settles in there. So that's got a wider range, all right? So again, remember what I said last time. If you take, erase, just imagine dots, the note heads, join the dots, and you see a very well-defined phrase. All right, have a happy new year. Okay, so the whole thing. Okay, so that one there, in fact, if they gave you measure 1 to 4, and you wrote them 5 to 8, I would say you did a better job than they did. 5 to 8 is much more melodic, whatever. Okay, so, but every melody is different. So again, these observations, you've got to work with what you're given. And you'll see later on, if you peek further in the book, you will see such questions where you only get like 2 bars and you got to finish it and add another bunch. Okay. The last one, I pointed it out, the fact that there are key notes here. Do, re, mi, re. Okay? The rhythm is the same in each bar. It starts with a little skip, and then you have the 2/8, followed by the quarter, all scale-like, right? So that's the connecting links. Each measure repeats the same rhythm and the same opening interval. It doesn't matter what that interval is. It starts off with a fourth, then it becomes a fifth, and then it becomes a third again. Then right. Yeah, so you've got tonic chord. Okay, next phrase. Right, so this one here, I would say, good on you, baby. You gotta get 10. 10 marks because Noah, because he has really generated a whole 8 bars out of a very small little musical idea. Just like Beethoven does. Beep, 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 beep. Right. So, this guy learned his learned a few technical things. Okay. Right. Notice measure 5. I would say measure 5. Look what he does. And now. He repeats, da-da-dum, and then again, da-da-dum, step down, and now he flips it upside down, da-da-dum, okay, that's very subtle, because even if you listen to Bach, or even some of these Baroque composers, they will do a repetition, like a sequential thing, repeat, they'll state it, play it again, and then they'll start playing it a third time and they'll change it. Very seldom will they repeat it 3 times, because then it kind of starts to work against itself. So too much repetition, right? So it's kind of that simple principle. Okay, and this one here is the opposite. This phrase. Fa, mi, re, do. Sorry, it sounds better than when you play it right. Okay. Now, 1 minute. You're going to look at, there's something that's common to every last measure of each one of these. There are 3 things. 3 points we're going to make before we take off. Observations. Okay. One observation, David.
They always end on the tonic.
Great. And tonic note. Tonic chord, obviously. Right, that's the double bar. So, this is one of the things which I spoke of in terms of mechanics, right? Just do this and it'll probably work out for you, all right, for the most part. So that's one thing. At the double bar, you will always end on the note do. Anything else? Ben?
It's always authentic.
Sorry?
It's authentic.
Okay. But it doesn't necessarily have to be. But yeah, he's right. So 5-1. Yep.
We're going
Yeah. Okay, how do you get to that last note? Okay. Don't move. This is important.
One note away.
Yeah, one note away. So stop and think. As I said, the best thing to do is use the dominant triad. So, watch. Okay, there's the dominant triad, right? So, GBD, we're in C major, obviously, okay? You're gonna end on a C. So, your choice of notes are one above or one below. Okay? So either and re, do, re to do, or T, do. And that's going to be the authentic, which is probably your best choice. Okay? And one last thing is that in the last bar, one note. Fill up that last bar with just one note. Don't break it into, half notes and stuff like that. It's the end. So basically what you want to do is you want to land on that final chord resting. It's home plate. You come back home and you just sit on it and establish it as an ending, right? So that's what all of those have in common, and those are observations which, I write those down. On. Okay.
Man, look at this.
All right, get along.
Have a nice day.